Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Jim Kleiber Show. Today's Friday, October 30th, 2020, which means tomorrow is Saturday, October 31st, Halloween 2020. What a scary Halloween that we will have. Oh, goodness. Oh, holidays. They don't feel the same this year. Not sure what holidays are like in other countries with the pandemic. Again, some countries are doing well with this, other countries not so well. But here in the U.S., the holidays haven't really been the same. 4th of July wasn't really the same. I don't know if they had fireworks really anywhere. I know a lot of them were postponed or canceled. What other holidays have we had? It's been actually quite a long streak where not too many of the big holidays, big meaning widely celebrated and a lot of families coming together necessarily. But then again, maybe it's just not big for my family. What did we have? We had Memorial Day in May. We had 4th of July in July. We had Labor Day in September. Maybe Veterans Day, I think, was in the middle somewhere there. We've had a few holidays, but the big the Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's holidays are coming up. Also Hanukkah and no, I think there was it Rosh Hashanah that happened, or Passover? One of them happened during this break that I think was hard on some families that are used to coming together and having a dinner. I think I learned it was called a Seder dinner together, but they did it over Zoom, as so many things are happening these days. Yeah, it's just, I think sometimes we don't realize the traditions that we have and how long we've been doing them for. I think my family has seen each other on Thanksgiving, like my family, like my close family and my uncle's family, probably every year of my life, Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so if that doesn't happen this year, it's hard. It's really hard. We get into certain rhythms and routines of life, and then something comes in from the outside and says, no, you're not supposed to do it. Whether that's a government or whether it's an infectious virus that comes in and basically warns us that, hey, if you do it, you can do it, but just know that there are consequences, potential consequences for you and your family and people around them. It's hard, man. So, yeah, it's weird. I normally get so excited for Halloween, but I almost forget that it's tomorrow. And somebody was saying, like, people here in the U.S., I think they said, like, the young generation is probably going to be so angry and vote against Donald Trump because he basically took away a Halloween that was on Saturday when we would switch back the time for daylight savings time. So it's the day, when we do that, it's normally a Saturday night, and it means that when the clock strikes 2 a.m., it rolls back to 1 a.m. at that moment. And so then there's one more hour left in the club. So to have a Saturday night on Halloween where the clock is rolling back 1 hour and there's nowhere to go because we're still struggling with this virus. Man, what a loss. There's so many other losses, and this may seem quite facetious, but gosh, there's some things in life that are just lovely. And to have it not be a safe option, it's tough. It hurts. So, yeah, I don't know what people are going to do. I don't know what's the appropriate way to celebrate Halloween. I don't know what excitement people have to wear, for Halloween. I know there's the idea of wearing masks. The thing about Halloween is that when you wear a mask, you do keep a lot of the water vapor that we normally expel. We keep it inside. I mean, I can tell you stories of wearing masks over the years where, oh yeah, you wear the mask and you feel your face just gets super sweaty from all the stuff you were wearing. But I don't know. I don't know if kids will be out trick-or-treating. I don't know if There'll still be house parties. I'm sure there's still going to be house parties. There's still going to be clubs and things like that. I don't know. It's one of those days. Halloween, at least in the U.S., can be one of those days where people just relax, get creative, and especially like going out to bars and clubs and restaurants and places like this, just being out in public in a costume can make a lot of people smile. The irony, the holiday seems to be about scaring people, but it can bring a lot of joy to people. And in a time when I think so many of us might need it, just to go out and see somebody in a costume you totally didn't expect and be like, what? I mean, it could be a costume that is very out of the ordinary, or it could just be a person you wouldn't expect wearing a certain costume. My cousin, so my grandma had this one costume where it was like, the cow costume. It had the little udders on the front, and it was just a big cow costume. And at some point, my youngest cousin got it, almost like a hand-me-down or something, and he wore it, and I thought it was fantastic. I think he was in college, and he was going around college like wearing this big cow costume, and I thought it was fantastic. Yeah, just the juxtaposition sometimes of like who is wearing what can, I think, bring a lot of joy and unexpected surprise. But unexpected surprise, as if surprises are expected. I meant unexpected joy. Oh, language, it swirls, especially on a Friday. Hey, you know what? Halloween. Oh, then election. Oh, we're almost there. Speaking of holidays, I always thought that election day should be a holiday in the US. What if election day were a holiday? What if we celebrated the day that we vote? What if we celebrated democracy as much as we celebrate the other things in life? Wow, I would love that. What would it look like if election day were a holiday? What could we do? We could have parties. We could have concerts. We could have pizza parties. One thing I learned in college is that if you want to get people to show up to something, often just give them free pizza. So what if on election day, like the government said, hey, we're going to pay for pizza, or we're going to pay for food, we're going to pay for a barbecue. The government has set aside money to celebrate this day because it's one of the most important days, not only in our history, but in our future and in our present, is to celebrate the fact that we can vote and we can have peaceful transitions of power. Oh, turn it into a day for joy, not a day for like obligation. Because right now it's pretty much a day of obligation that we have to do. You should do this thing. There's a lot of shaming about how one should participate, one should take certain action. But what if it had a different emotional feel, like the excitement of participating in the process, the joy of being able to make a decision, the strength, the power, the gratitude, the camaraderie of making those decisions. I was thinking about it yesterday, and I think I saw something about Paul Rudd was delivering cookies to people who were standing in line in Brooklyn to vote. And I thought, that'd be a good idea. What if we could have celebrities be the poll workers? So people be like, oh man, like Paul Rudd's the poll worker in Brooklyn. I want to go out and vote because I want to see Paul Rudd. Or, oh man, Jeff Daniels is a poll worker here in Michigan. I guess the problem is that if it's not in your district, then you might try to go to another district, which isn't possible. I don't know. I'm sure there's some downsides to it. But yeah, just a certain element of trying to change what the holidays mean to us intentionally, but also just recognizing when they change on their own and we can't do much to it. You could say there's the environmental factor where something changes outside, but sometimes holidays just change because of like relationship factors. I was watching this TV show Coach the other day. Maybe I may have mentioned it before, but I really like it. It's an old show from started in 1989 and went for about 8 or 9 years. It's about a football coach who coaches at the college in Minnesota, and then goes on to coach an NFL team. And it's about his relationships and stuff like this. And he takes his daughter out for her birthday. And this is the daughter he had with his ex-wife, and she's 19 now. But every year, like, he didn't grow, he wasn't there when she was growing up, not in person. And this is before the internet. And so he would call a lot, and but he would always make sure to show up on her birthday. So when it was her birthday this time, he has this whole special night planned out, and invites her out, and it's just him and her, and they're going to get the food. And then the boyfriend shows up. He's like, what's he doing here? Like, he was so frustrated that the boyfriend would show up, because this was a day for just them two. And then his daughter also wanted his girlfriend to show up. And he just got so frustrated, because for him, this was a tradition. And to maintain the tradition meant it was just him and her. Those were the only two that were supposed to go. It was their special day. And that's how it was supposed to be. And his girlfriend, Christine, reminded him that sometimes traditions change and the definition of family changes, and how to incorporate that. So, holidays change. Traditions change sometimes, whether we want them to or not, or whether other people want them to or not. Sometimes it's just outside of our control. And what do? Do we sit and complain? Do we get stuck in anger and frustration and resentment? Or do we sometimes accept it and try to see the good in it? As I've mentioned before, I don't believe anything is really good or bad. I think everything is good and bad. It just depends on how we look at it. And how can we see the good in some of these challenges that we're being faced with as it relates to the holidays and celebration and coming together? I mean, a part of me is relieved. I love coming up with costumes, but a part of me is so stressed out when I come up with costumes. Oh, because it often comes like somewhat last minute, and I go, oh no, how am I going to make this? And it's kind of a rush. I love it, but there's a part of me, it's like, oh, I don't have to do it. I still might, though. But yeah, what else is good about? I think sometimes when we have to take a pause, or we have to do something differently, it can remind us how much we appreciate, how much we do really love the things that we're doing. So having to take a break from going out and being around lots of people on Halloween can remind me just how much I really do enjoy being around those people. But, I can't remember the last time that I really stayed at home and just handed out candy to the kids. That could be really nice too. As we look at other holidays and as we look going forward, it's, how can we find this, the silver lining, they say, but how can we find what's good in a lot of the different ways that we have to do things this year? It's not even just holidays, but, how do we find what's good in having to stay at home, or having to furlough some employees, or having to only have 50% or 20% capacity at our restaurants or our stores? How do we see what's good in being at home with our families? How do we see what's good in not driving all the time? How do we see what's good in being in one location more often than maybe we have ever been in our lives? How do we see what's good in technology? How do we see what's good in Facebook? How do we see what's good in a lot of these things that we're using that we can often just see negatively? How do we see what's good in politicians? Right? So after this election, someone will be elected, and whether we like that person or not, or whether we voted for that person or not, how can we try to find what's good in what they do and who they are, and how it affects us? How can we try to see what's good in the way that the media reports, both in what they do and their intentions as well? Yeah, it's just I think a lot of things can be spinned to make it sound really bad, but they can also be spun to sound good as well. Just that balance of trying to see both sides of it, but maybe focus on the side that brings us more joy and more excitement and more feelings of togetherness and closeness than the ones that push us apart. How are you all going to handle the holidays this year? What are your plans for Halloween? Do you have any plans? Are you excited that Halloween is less of a big deal this year? Are you frustrated? Are you confused? Are you annoyed? What are your plans for the winter holidays? Do you know what they are? Are you afraid of what might happen? Are you sad that maybe you can't travel, or you're afraid to travel to see your family? Are you unsure of how your family's been handling the pandemic and whether they've been wearing masks or whether they've been interacting with lots of people or whether they've been, maintaining social, physical distance? I don't know why they keep calling it social distance, but like physical distance from people. Yeah. I don't know. I know it's a crazy time, and some people think that maybe we're overdoing it, that we're taking this too strictly, that people are going to get sick and people are going to die from a lot of things. But somebody mentioned on Twitter, and I want to respond to it, but they were like, oh, why don't we just look at 100,000 deaths of corona, and compare it to 100,000 deaths of heart attack or hepatitis C or some other thing, and try to compare it and look at it as if they were somewhat even. And I think the thing that hits me is that, somebody may die from a heart attack. Maybe the same amount of people die from heart attacks, or the same amount of people die from hepatitis C or some other disease. But I don't know how many diseases there are that could kill someone that I could go out, contract just through breathing the air, and then go home and give it to someone just through breathing the air, and then they die within 2 weeks. Again, the percentage is not high for some groups, but for other groups, it's quite high. And I think that plays into it. It's just that it's not just the absolute death, it's also the havoc it wreaks on some of our emotions as it goes through it. I can't imagine what it would feel like. Actually, no, I can't imagine, and it scares the heck out of me. What it would feel like to go out and get COVID-19 and come back and give it to a loved one, and then to see that loved one die and know that I was the one who went out and got it and brought it back to this person. I can't imagine how much that would hurt. With some other viral diseases, I think like Ebola, I think the death rate is much, much, much higher. And so it may not have that lingering guilt feeling. Because here, somebody could go out, get it, be almost probably totally asymptomatic, and then transmit it to somebody else. Or somebody could be slightly symptomatic and then transmit it to somebody else. Just being aware that we are the ones that brought this to somebody else that we care about, or even someone we don't even know. to just think that we could be the bearer of that disease and that death. I got a flu shot yesterday. I've never had a flu shot in my life. And honestly, I don't think I need a flu shot. And this year, I don't think I need a flu shot. For those who don't know, a flu shot is like a flu vaccine that they have every year. Every year, they come out with a different vaccine to try to guess which flu strain is going to be the most prevalent one. So I've never had a flu vaccine. And this year, I don't think I would need it at all because I'm not interacting with people really at all. And so I'm staying away from COVID means I'm also staying away from the flu. But I got it because I realized that even if I get the flu and it doesn't impact me much, if I get that flu and I spread it to someone else, it could really hurt them. And so in a way, how could I do my role in preventing the spread? And it doesn't hurt me much to go get my arm poked for, gosh, it wasn't even 2 seconds to get my arm poked just so that I can help stop the spread. And it's sometimes it's these little acts. They seem so small and insignificant, but can really, really help society on the large scale. It's the same thing with voting. Voting seems so small and insignificant. It's just one vote, just one person out of, maybe 300 million people who are voting, just one person. But it adds up. It adds up. Same thing with the vaccine. If I get a vaccine for the flu, or if I get a vaccine for polio, or if I get a vaccine for smallpox, or if I get a vaccine for COVID-19, it could stop the spread at just one point. It can help block off the different channels for it to spread. I don't know, it seems so small and insignificant, but I think it can have a very large impact in the aggregate. It's the idea of imagine if you saved $1 per day, every day. That'd be $365 a year. And how much across 10 years? That's $3,000. Just $1 a day, $3,000. $3,650. Small, but it can add up really fast, especially when you do it over time. Even for this, right? This is me doing a podcast every day, Monday through Friday. Seems small. I get on, I talk for 30 minutes, or I have a guest and we talk for, an hour, maybe an hour and a half. Just a small thing. I'll just do it for, 30 minutes a day. This is the 58th episode. Wow, 58 episodes times 30 minutes, assuming they're all minimum of 30 minutes. That's at least 29 hours of content. 29 hours of me talking about different concepts and different ways to relate to the world. Wow. But if I said I'm going to sit down and try to do 29 hours of podcast, no way. There's no way I'll do it. But just 30 minutes a day. Boom, 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 boom. The small can really add up to have a large impact over time. But not just over time, but also over population. So just having one person vote can inspire the next person to vote. And if every little person says, okay, it's just me, it's just the one vote, I'm going to do it, boom. Now you have a lot of people voting. And over that large population, that can have a huge impact and have a lot of power over the decisions of what we want in this country and what we want in this world, what we want in the city and in all different levels. Same thing with a vaccine. It may seem small and insignificant when it's just one person getting a vaccine. But when you take it across, you expand it across the population, it can have very large impact. Because what is a population except a collection of many, many, many small individuals? Right? And maybe we can see this as well, just the idea of looking at trying to see not only the bad, but the good in things. And to try to focus on not just the anger and the frustration, but also the excitement and the joy and the different, the range of emotions. If one person, just one of us, gets much better at this, at expressing our joy, expressing our anger, expressing and feeling the different emotions. And everyone starts doing this. Just one person, one at a time, boom, 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 can have a huge impact. This aggregate force can really move mountains. They talk about that with the Grand Canyon. I don't know if you've ever been to the Grand Canyon, and many of you who perhaps not. I think I've gone once when I was a kid, but I'm sure almost everyone's heard of the place. And the Grand Canyon was carved by a river, just water slowly streaming over, I think, millions of years. And then boom, you get one river flowing, and then the water cuts away at the rock and cuts away at the rock and cuts away at the rock slowly. And then over time, you have one of the deepest canyons on Earth, and it's beautiful, just from the water. Slow, steady, has big power, and moves mountains or rock. I don't know if it was really a mountain. So these small little things in life we can do to have a big impact. And as it comes back to holidays, it's the small little things, even if we can't be with each other in person because of the virus, we can still reach out and care for each other in different ways. We can send virtual costumes, or we could scare people through like some internet memes or whatever. Or we can call them, or we can video call, or we can send something in the mail. There's a lot of things we can do to interact with people, to still bring that joy. But again, if we all do just our little part, it can add up and have a big change, and hopefully get us out of this situation so that we can come back together in person soon enough. Oh, lo, it's the weekend. I am ready. Some weeks just feel long, and when they're getting battered with political advertisements, it just seems even longer. Hopefully those ads will stop on Tuesday. Everyone, I hope you have a lovely weekend. I hope you celebrate Halloween however you want to celebrate, even if that includes not celebrating it. And at the same time, trying to be mindful of how us catching this virus can spread it to somebody else very quickly, and quickly that could spread to a whole society. And so one small act to try to avoid to spread the virus can really help save the lives of so many others. The physical lives, but also the emotional lives of people. Too much trauma, too much sadness and guilt around this virus. And anyways, y'all, hope you have a good one. I'm signing off and ready for the weekend. Take care, y'all.